I'd like to welcome our own members, Mary Avery and Eileen Morrison, to the chancel to share their harmonies with our opening song this morning, Beautiful Dreamer by Stephen Foster. Mary and Eileen have each sung throughout their lives in schools, church choirs, and beyond. You can find out more about each of them in your order of service. Welcome. Or not.
Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. Starlight and dewdrop are waiting for thee. Sounds of this rude world heard in the day, lulled by the moonlight, have all passed away. Beautiful dreamer, queen of my song, list while I woo thee with soft melody. Oh, gone are the cares of life's busy throng. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Beautiful dreamer, out on the sea, mermaids are chanting the wild laurel. Over the streamlet, vapors are born, waiting to fade at the bright coming morn. Beautiful dreamer, beam on my heart, lean as the moon on the streamlet and sea. Oh, then with all clouds of sorrow depart. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Unto me.
Thank you, that was beautiful. Our opening words this morning are by Albert Einstein, written in a letter from 1950. A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Nobody is able to achieve this completely, but the striving for such achievement is in itself a part of the liberation and a foundation for inner security. And now I would like to invite you all to our opening hymn. It is number 194, Faith is a Forest. And I'd like to invite our song leaders to come forward along with Marilyn Smart. This is a hymn that may not be familiar to many of you in our congregation, so Marilyn is going to assist us in learning this hymn together by singing the first verse for us to hear. Then we will all join in and sing the first verse again together, followed by the remaining verses.
Good morning. Ready to try something new? This hymn is based on a Chinese folk song, so that's the melody. The words are not Chinese. Faith is a future which with darts flaming high, insight can hear the sense voice deep inside, web of this thread I weave, strength and commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. First verse again. Ready? Faith is a forest in which doubts play and hide. Insight can hear the still small voice deep inside. Web of life beneath this thread I weave, strength and commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Seeds of belief and strong are scattered in air. Dignity shines undimmed by liberty's glare. Web of life beneath this thread I weave. Help me bear witness to all I believe. Justice be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Fortune and famine ride the swift winds of chance. Sorrow and pleasure seem united in dance. Web of life beneath this thread I weave. Mingle compassion with all I believe. Mercy be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say.
Thank you, Marilyn. It's a beautiful, beautiful hymn, and I love the words. Thank you, Gary. Welcome to Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church, or as we call it more simply, BBUC. My name is Linda Mowers. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm happy to serve as your worship leader this morning. We acknowledge that we are here on the traditional lands of the Timucuan people who became extinct in the middle of the 18th century. We encourage you to learn more about the history of the indigenous people, past and present, in Florida and beyond. You are warmly welcome here, whatever your race, whatever your origins, whatever your challenge, whatever your religious background or absence of one, whatever your identity or sexual orientation. We hold women and men in equal dignity. We value young and old. And we believe that community can be achieved without conformity of thought. Our religious community is based on individual freedom, tolerance, and a mutual search for truth. We welcome you to bring all that you are, your beliefs and traditions, your identity, your story, and the wisdom of your years to this congregation. We welcome you to share your spiritual journey. You're welcome here, In our presence, may you always seek your truth, speak your truth in love, and live your truth through service. And through all your days in our presence, may you experience love. I'd like to give a special welcome to those here today who may be guests or newcomers. We're so glad that you're here, and we hope that you'll stay with us for the fellowship after the service. You'll find coffee and other beverages along with snacks at the pass-through windows in the back of the sanctuary, and it's a great time for meeting friends and sharing conversation. Please be sure to stop by our welcome table at the entryway if you haven't already done so. There you can find information on our church and our religion, as well as the path to membership. We have regularly scheduled Learn About UU and Learn About BBUUC classes year-round. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any of our members. If they don't have answers, they can get you to a member who does. And be sure to wear your name tag so that we can warmly welcome and greet you by name. For information on the many activities and events in our community, be sure to see your order of service, our monthly newsletter, our weekly emails, and our bulletin boards. Thank you also today to all of our volunteers who make our Sunday service, religious education classes, and fellowship hour happen. We're about to enter sacred time. So we're about to make this time and this place sacred by our presence and our intention. Please turn off or silence your phones. And as you do so, I invite each of us to be here in this moment. Since Unitarian Universalists don't have a creed or dogma, what does hold us together as a community is covenant. These are the promises we make to one another about who we will be as a faith community and how we'll be in relationship with one another as we practice our values. Creating beloved community requires intention and practice. Our covenant articulates our intention, and we recite the covenant that we created as a congregation to help us live into the practice. Our covenant is printed in your order of service, and I invite you to speak the words together in unison. Please join me. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be a safe, welcoming, and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation. And now I'd like to invite you to rise in body or spirit for our call to worship. The words are printed in your order of service. This Wednesday, February 7th, is National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, which was first observed in 1999. This observance is a day to acknowledge how HIV disproportionately affects Black people. Black communities have made great progress in reducing HIV, yet racism, discrimination, and mistrust in the healthcare system may affect whether Black people seek or receive HIV prevention services. In 2021, Black people represented 40% of new HIV diagnoses, despite making up only 14% of the U.S. population. Factors such as lack of health insurance, racial bias, and lower median incomes exacerbate existing gaps and make it more difficult for Black Americans to access the social and medical resources that help prevent and treat HIV. Together, we can work to overcome structural barriers to HIV testing, prevention, and treatment. So at this time, I'd like to invite Manny Andrade to come forward to light our chalice this morning in recognition of National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, as I share these words of Nadine McSpadden. During our darkest moments, still there is hope. When facing our biggest challenges, still there is hope. When all we can do is put one foot in front of the other, still there is hope. When we can't find the way out, still there is hope. When all we can do is to help is hold someone's hand as they cry, still there is hope. We are the hope for ourselves and for one another. Always there is hope. May it be so. Thank you, Manny.
The water is wide, and I can't get on, and neither have I the wings to fly, but give me a boat that can carry two, and we will row, my love and I. The water is wide, and the world grows cold, and neither have I the wings to fly, but give me a dream that is strong and bold, and we will try, my love and I. For together we are, and together we stand, and alone we have not the strength of two. But give me a boat and my love's own hand, and we will make our dream come true.
Thank you so much. This congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with membership open to all who are in accordance with our mission, values, and vision. We're a welcoming congregation to people of all sexual orientations, and we unconditionally welcome any and all of you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual and moral beings. Our congregation is entirely self-governed by a democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as our ushers, David Rullison and John Wrightington, come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. At the conclusion of the offering, I'll invite you to stand in body or spirit and join in hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. Jennifer Bacmeister has worn many hats here at BBUC since joining in 2001. She's an integral part of our worship team. She writes and delivers her own sermons here and other UU churches as well. Jennifer played a big role in the task force that built our beautiful home here. You can read more about her in your order of service. So now I welcome you to the pulpit, Jennifer.
Good morning, everyone. Not sure I need these today or not. Maybe not. Our reading this morning comes from a book called Welcoming the Unwelcome, Wholehearted Living in a Broken-Hearted World by Pema Chodron. When studying spiritual teachings in the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, we set out by arousing an even greater motivation known as bodhicitta. In Sanskrit, bodhi means awake and chitta means heart or mind. Our aim is to fully awaken our heart and mind, not just for our own well-being, but also to bring benefit, solace, and wisdom to other living beings. My teacher said that the way to arouse bodhicitta was to, quote, begin with a broken heart. Protecting ourselves from pain, our own and that of others, has never worked. Everybody wants to be free from their suffering, but the majority of us go about it in ways that only make it worse. Shielding ourselves from the vulnerability of all living things, which includes our own vulnerability, cuts us off from the full experience of life. Our world shrinks. When our main goals are to gain comfort and avoid discomfort, we begin to feel disconnected from and even threatened by others. We enclose ourselves in a mesh of fear. And when many people and countries engage in this kind of approach, the result is a messy global situation with lots of pain and conflict. But when we generate bodhicitta, we go against the grain of this tendency to shy away. Instead, we arouse the bravery to take a direct look at ourselves and the world. If I really connect with my jealousy, my anger, or my prejudice, I find myself standing in the shoes of humanity. From this place, the longing to wake up to alleviate the suffering of the world comes naturally. Reverend Lóre Stevens is the author of our sermon today. She is a graduate of Harvard Divinity School with a Master of Divinity degree. And a native of Tennessee, she currently serves as the minister of Foothills Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. That would be FUUF. Sorry, I just saw that. I bet you they don't use that. In Maryville, Tennessee, and you can find more about her in our order service. And the name of her sermon is Universal-ish. I'd like to preface this by saying you're going to hear me talk a lot about God and Christianity today. We're exploring the way that religious ancestors understood the world, but I am neither discouraging nor encouraging anything about your relationship with God or gods or the universe. Many UU congregations like to talk a lot about capital L love, and that originally meant God's love. But what love are we talking about when God has come to mean something different to many folks? Back in the day, in Christian Europe, there was this idea that wealth supposedly signaled goodness and God's love. Poverty signaled that you must have done something wrong and you're damned to hell. But poor people thought that didn't make any sense, especially since it was the wealthy who were saying it. And the wealthy merchants paid the priests, and the priests blessed the kings, and the kings were protected the merchants, and almost all of these were men. All these powerful dudes agreed that they had power because God had chosen them and loved them, and that must mean they were good. So if you weren't powerful, that must mean that you were bad or stupid or weak and deserved what you got. This is called theocracy. You won't be surprised to hear that the poor, the ill, the orphaned, most women, and people who weren't ethnically European didn't really resonate with this idea. The poor folks in particular started to think, what if wealth and poverty didn't have anything to do with God choosing to love and bless only a few people? What if God loved everyone? These folks thought, yeah, maybe life isn't fair, but after we die, we'll all just be included in heaven. We'll all get to be with God together. That's called Christian universalism. It made a lot of powerful people really mad. However, this Christian universalist idea was that we'll all be included in heaven, even if you made a big muddy mess and other people had to clean it up. Women, among others, were not satisfied with that. So now we're in early America, a couple hundred years ago or so. Some universalists, including a lot of women, thought it wasn't fair if God included people in heaven, even if they had done really awful things. So some universalists thought maybe after death there's a place called purgatory, kind of like afterlife detention, where people who had done bad things sort of sit for a while and think about what they did. They don't get punished, but restored, like a bath for your muddy soul. These folks thought God includes everyone in love and makes everything fair in the afterlife. They called that restoration universalism. Okay, so that's a bit more fair, right? The one teeny tiny problem is that all that fairness happens after death. Who in early America might not be satisfied living their whole lives under the thumb of really cruel people in the harshest conditions imaginable, just hoping it all gets sorted out after we kick the bucket? Folks who were enslaved didn't love that idea. Now we're up to the last 100 years or so. Black folks in America had struggled for freedom and had been emancipated, but things were still rigged to be really unfair towards them. Universalism, the idea that everyone is included, wasn't really catching on with them. It was nice, but it wasn't fair. There is notable Black Universalist history, such as Reverend Joseph Jordan and his daughter Annie Willis. They created a Universalist school for Black children in Virginia. The larger faith's support of the Jordan school was, you guessed it, a little unfair. They kept trying to get them to change the school or put a white guy from Boston in charge of it or pulling funding for it. Even so, the Jordans kept it going for 70 years. But for most Black Americans, universalism never really caught on. It didn't address their lived reality. Black and brown folks heard all this Christian talk about God and the afterlife and asked, aren't y'all forgetting somebody? In South America and in Black America in the 1960s, Christians highlighted that God had squeezed God's self into a human named Jesus. Jesus was born in a barn, dirt poor. Jesus hung out with foreigners and sex workers and lowly Roman bureaucrats that even his friends hated. Jesus was Jewish under the oppressive Roman Empire. Jesus was unjustly killed by that empire. In the Christian understanding, God experienced all that. So these folks, like the Peruvian priest Gustavo Gutierrez and the Black American theologian James Cone, thought, God may love everyone, but God prioritizes those who are poor and imprisoned and displaced and in despair because God has felt all that, and in some people's worldview, continues to feel every ounce of suffering that humanity does. To those folks, that's what it means that God loves us, that God is on the side of the oppressed. So we should all work to change things until no one is oppressed anymore. That's called liberation theology. And that brings us to the present day. Today, Unitarian Universalists say that though our individual beliefs vary, together we side with love, capital L. That's similar to the liberation theologians. We affirm that every person, from the privileged to the oppressed, has worth and dignity. Everything, from the harmed to the harmful, is connected in the interdependent web of being. But Unitarian Universalists side with those who are oppressed and hurting, to work for change until we are all free. The Black feminist author Bell Hooks tells us there is no love without justice. Inclusion isn't enough. We need to work for restorative justice on earth. We need to pitch in and wash what we've made muddy. That's love in action. I once saw a bronze statue of a figure shrouded in a blanket asleep on a bench. His head was covered, but his bare feet stuck out. It looked like a statue of a homeless person, huddled uncomfortably to catch some sleep before some cop tells him he can't sleep there. If you looked close at this statue's feet, you would see two marks, two holes, evoking Jesus after the crucifixion. I'm an atheist, and I've also worked with a lot of people experiencing homelessness, so even though that isn't my religion, this statue reminded me that the universe is part of each of us, and that each of us is part of the universe, and so we are connected to each other in our suffering and in our joy. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. tells us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The beloved community can't be built from the middle up. Love lives in the souls and bodies of people who are harmed or excluded. Love lives in the souls and bodies of people who harm and exclude. Love lives in the souls and bodies of people who witness harm but do nothing to change it. Each of us has been harmed and caused harm and ignored harm. Some only feel those pains occasionally. Some are only free from those pains occasionally. When someone causes harm or ignores harm or has to bury their heart to get through the pains of life, that separation requires that we cut our souls off from the connectedness of life. It requires that we forget who we truly are. That illusion of separateness hurts on the deepest, most divine level inside ourselves. Yet when we take actions that are aligned with love and justice, we remember who and what we truly are, facets of the holy oneness. When we side with love, we go beyond inclusion and work for justice. We remember that our liberation is bound up together and that we aren't free until we're all free. Let us feel honored and undaunted at this sacred, liberating, universalist work still to be done. May it be so.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing all three verses of our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us, and then remain standing for the benediction. Morgan entitled Wake into Love. I want to wake every morning into love, where love is the question of how I'm going to help you get free, and where that means whatever it needs to mean. Blessed be. Amen.